burner won't light. So today we're going to cover some easy ways to get this very awesome and expensive range working again. We're also looking at one of the burners here. It's been given trouble. It's the one they use more often than the others. It's on the front near the left. It's very common. This one's used a lot. So we're taking these pieces off, taking the drip trays out. We've got the grates off. You don't have to take them all off. We're just going to clean them anyway, but I'm just trying to get to the ones on the left here. They're the ones of concern. So if we go in 2 rows from the left in the front, that's the one that's been acting up. When we try to turn it on, we hear very faint clicking noise, but we don't see any spark. Now that could be due to a really corroded or dirty burner head, and the metal pieces have to touch each other and make good metal to metal contact. And if they don't, if they're too corroded like this one, you have a really bad ground and the electricity can't travel through and create a good circuit to create a nice strong spark. So sometimes just cleaning this stuff up, getting rid of the grease that's built up, getting rid of the corrosion will do the trick. Other times it could be a broken igniter that's causing the problem, but we're going to assume first that it just needs to be cleaned to create a better ground connection. So we're using some electrical cleaner to cut through some of the grease that's built up on this metal plate, and then we're cleaning the bottom of the burner where that makes contact with that metal plate. This is all part of just trying to get a better ground. The power is coming through the orange wire that's coming into the igniter, but there's another side of the circuit, and that's the ground connection, and that's produced by the metal parts. So the bottom of the igniter touching this metal plate. So if the metal plate's really clean and the bottom of the burner's clean, and then the next part, the burner head that touches the burner itself is clean, then you have really good metal to metal ground connections. So that's one of the first things to try if you have a weak spark or maybe even no spark. I've been using a wire brush. I get these at the dollar store. You get like, I think 2 or 3 for $1. And then some electrical cleaner. You can get this from Home Depot in the electrical section. I'm using that to clean the igniter itself. These are really good igniters on the Capitol. They have a housing around them to protect them because they're made of porcelain. So I did speed up the camera here, but I'm not doing this with a lot of force. I'm going fast, but I'm going kind of light so I don't break the porcelain. And the metal part you can push in really hard. This is the burner head using the same principle, just using electrical cleaner, wiping it off, and then trying to get it as shiny as possible, removing all the grease and removing the rust and the corrosion that builds up. So the burners that get used a lot do end up with the most ground problem because they get the most grease on them, and also the hot cold produces water, which can cause them to have rust or corrosion. And those are all the enemies of a good electrical circuit. So you get kind of a weak ground and you can get weak ignition. Turned out with this particular one that these steps didn't help. This often does work. You should try this first. But in our case, the spark module that creates the spark was just worn out. It was just used so often that it needed to be replaced. Or in some ovens, or some ranges, they have one spark module that brings spark to all the different burners. But in this one, each burner has its own little spark module. We'll put a link in the description below if you need to get a spark module for your Capitol range too. So I'm going to try this now. I got the burner head, putting it on the nice clean burner. Everything's super clean. The igniter's clean. But when I try it, same thing, just a really faint sound, no spark at all. So makes me think that, well, It's not the ground problem. And it's starting to look like that spark module. One other thing you could do is to switch things around. Here's what the little individual spark module looks like. It has 2 wires coming in, a line and a neutral to bring power, and then the little orange wire going out to the igniter. One thing I'll try here in a second though is I'll switch the burners around just to make sure that it is a problem with the spark module, not a problem with the igniter itself. So you can take some of the parts off of one of the other burners. I'm going to pull this orange wire out of that burner. And I'll go ahead and take this burner, the suspicious one, I'll take its wire out and I'll shift it over to that back position because that back position was working. I have to pull this wire out. Sometimes these wires have trouble coming out. You could use a pair of pliers though, would make it easier. You got some needle in those pliers. So now I'll take that burner that was giving me trouble and I'll hook it up to this back wire and then see if that does any good. So I'll put it into the back burner position. This is the troublemaking burner with maybe a bad igniter. I'm just going to see what happens. So when I try it, I can hear a spark now, which is good. And I got a good ignition. So that tells me the igniter's good, the burner's good, it has a good ground, the cleaning really helped. But this orange wire that was bringing power to the igniter is not bringing power because the module that makes the power is messed up. So I got to get to the module. I got to unplug it, get all these burner knobs off, just pull them straight off. And then I got to get this whole front panel off. I got to take out this trim piece that sits underneath the drip pan. There's a bunch of screws, you pull it off. And then I got to get to this Torx 15 screw here. There's 2 of them underneath the little metal box that holds the burner knobs. I'm using a Torx 15 bit, and there's 2 long machine screws here on the right and on the left, right and left corners, 1 for each corner. Once you get those out, you can pull that whole box out away from the oven at the bottom, and then it'll come out at about 45 degrees, and then the upper lip will come out, and then you can get that whole box out by about 2 inches away where you can get to the parts behind it. So now I'm going to do that same screw here on the left side. So it's about an inch long machine screw. You zip it out. So here I'm pulling it out 45 degrees. It releases from the top, just slips out. And that gives me access to that little spark module. You got 1 for each one of the burners. And I'm going to grab the orange wire that's for that burner that's giving me trouble. I'm going to tug on it, and that's going to help me see where that orange wire hooks up to which one of these gray spark modules. Spark modules are these gray plastic boxes, a little bit hard to see here on camera. And it's held in by 2 Phillips head screws. So I'm cutting the zip tie that's holding the wires so I can kind of free up the wires. And I'll pull the orange wire out of the gray plastic box, the spark module, and I'm putting it into the new spark module. This one's a blue color. Putting the orange wire, which is a small spade terminal, into it, and then in the back of it I have a gray wire coming in, which is a larger terminal, coming into the L terminal, which is the line terminal, the incoming power. And then I have a white wire going to the other big terminal, and that's the neutral. And then hooked to that same neutral is another white wire. That's the one I'm hooking up right now. So the neutral wire goes into it, but then there's another neutral white wire that hooks up to it. And that creates this like daisy chain circuit that goes to the next neutral line, next neutral line, next neutral line, to all the different spark module boxes. So I've got the wires all hooked up. I got a gray wire, I got the white neutral wire, I got the orange little wire that brings power. I'll get that in there and add its Phillips head screw to hold it. And then we're pretty much done. We just have to put all the pieces back. We'll put a link in the description below for the oven igniter and for the spark module. And I got the box back into position. I'm adding those two machine head screws back in. The way I get the box back in is I came in at the top at 45 degrees to get it underneath the lip, and then I push the bottom in. I'm adding those screws back in. So here's that big machine screw on the right side. Let's line it up. So lift it a little bit and then zip it in. Perfect. All right, got all the knobs back in. We got a good ignition, good flame. So thanks so much for watching. I hope this helps you with your capital range. Thanks so much for watching our video today. I hope that this video has saved you some time and money. And if so, could you please press down in the video description below the donation link and send us a donation so we can keep this service going. Thanks again, and if you have any questions about this repair, could you contact me at scottthefixitguy@yahoo.com. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.